On May 25th, Argentinians celebrate May's Revolution Day and the 20th anniversary of the inauguration of Néstor Kirchner as the president of the Argentine Republic. And also, an earthquake of magnitude 6.6 hit the border region between Colombia and Panama. The United Nations Tribunal for War Crimes committed in Rwanda announced the capture of Rwandan genocide suspect Fulgence Kashiyema in South Africa after being on the run since 2001. Hi, hello from the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On Thursday, May 25th, Argentinians celebrate May's Revolution Day, which this year coincides with the 20th anniversary of the inauguration of Néstor Kirchner as the president of the Argentine Republic. On a day that remembers a key step towards the Argentine independence from Spain in the year 1810, social and political organizations have called civilians to gather at the May Square in Buenos Aires to celebrate the beginning of Kirchner's presidency 20 years ago. Kirchner, who arrived at the Casa Rosada with a low level of electoral support, achieved under his leadership the economic recovery, the overcoming of the 2001 crisis, and the cancellation of the debt with the International Monetary Fund. His presidency was marked by a significant commitment to human rights, promoting the trials for crimes against humanity committed during the last military dictatorship. Throughout his term in office, Kirchner also played a prominent role in the international scene, promoting his vision of a united and sovereign Latin America. Guatemala's former presidential candidate for the Citizen Prosperity Party, Carlos Pineda, requested the Supreme grounds that his suspension was temporary and his status as candidate had not been legally resolved. Pineda claims that the electoral entity must wait for the final results of the case. The election is scheduled to take place next June 25th. In Mexico, a pipeline of the Pemex oil company exploded in the municipality of Polotitlan, the state of Mexico, leaving several people injured. Authorities reported that at least 7 people were injured in the incident and that so far no deaths have been reported. Officials stated that representatives of Pemex are controlling the situation. They have also initiated the corresponding investigations to determine the cause of the pipeline explosion. In addition, the municipality also issued an evacuation alert in the area where the pipeline exploded for the community of El Tesoro and part of the town of Celayita. To 8 national and international journalists with the delivery of journalistic awards, Martyrs of the Resistance. The Honduran president explained that the awards bear the names of several martyrs of the resistance who gave their lives in the defense of freedom and the refoundation of the country. Also among those honored was the president of TeleSUR, Patricia Villegas, who received the Wendy Avila Award in honor to the young woman who dedicated her life to the struggle against the coup d'etat against Manuel Zelaya. In the meantime, the President, Castro, urged the communicators to continue forming conscience, besides holding high the Honduran flag to achieve independence, justice, and popular sovereignty. In Colombia, the Central General Staff of the Extinct Revolutionary Armed Forces, the FARC, publicly assumed responsibility for the murder of 3 indigenous adolescents on the border between the departments of Putumayo and Caquetá. In a statement published in the media, the so-called dissidents of Iván Mordisco assured that the 3 young minors, not 4, were executed, as it was reported by the press. The attribution of these deaths occurs after the President Gustavo Petro announced the suspension of the bilateral ceasefire and the reactivation of the offensive operations against his dissident bloc. As it was explained in the document, the adolescents were not forcibly recruited, as the guerrilla group keeps saying the minors joined voluntarily. The dissidents also commits itself to compensate the community for this event. Now we move on to other topics. An earthquake of magnitude 6.6 was registered on Wednesday in the border region between Colombia and Panama. The Colombian Geological Service informed that the quake occurred at 22:05 local time and had its epicenter at points located in the Caribbean Sea, 41 kilometers from the municipality of Acandí in the department of Antioquia. In this context, authorities reported the collapse of walls of houses in the locality of Capurgan. So far, there are no casualties and a tsunami threat was being ruled out. The earthquake was superficial and it was felt in large parts of the country, mainly in the coastal municipalities of the north and the northwest of the country. Now let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news, updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday, during the 11th international meeting of high-level officials responsible for security issues, President Vladimir Putin affirmed that Russia, together with other countries, will assuredly achieve a fair world order. Also, Putin assured that Russia was ready to engage in the closest level of interaction with all interested countries in efforts to counteract common threats and tackle the challenges that humankind is facing today. Separately, Putin talked about the significance of the Conference for the Global Situation, noting that over the years, regular interactions between security officials aimed at sharing their expertise and assessments have proven their utility and relevance. Finally, Putin hoped the meeting to be constructive and produce useful results while helping to determine new methods and areas for practical cooperation for the benefit of countries and peoples and in the interest of peace and stability on the planet.
We see that the current international situation is characterized by increasing instability. In different regions, the old centers of tension are expanding with the new ones emerging. The negative burden of conflicts is accumulating. The people of many countries are experiencing the dramatic consequences of coups organized from outside. This state of affairs is directly related to the desire of individual states and associations to preserve, maintain their dominance, and impose their own rules, completely ignoring the sovereignty, national interest, and traditions of other states. All this accompanied by a build-up of military potential, unceremonious interference in the internal affairs of other countries, as well as attempts to extract unilateral advantages from the energy and food crisis provoked by a number of Western states.
And leaders of the Eurasian Economic Union countries met in Moscow on Wednesday to discuss regional economic cooperation. The meeting was held one day before the bloc's Supreme Council meets on Thursday. During the meeting, Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev underlined the unique economic and political weight of Russia and Belarus in the Union and called on the leaders to consider its significance during the discussion of further integration plans on Thursday. On the other hand, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko said that the Western countries did not succeed in impeding the Union's country's technological industries. Kyrgyzstan's President Sadir Zaparov, on his part, praised the independence of the Union. The Eurasian Economic Union is formed by Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia.
You have noticed that they have been trying to bend us for 3 years and nothing. Almost everything that must fly is flying. Everything is firing, and so on. It means that we can do something and that we are already doing it.
The Eurasian Economic Union is becoming an independent and self-sufficient pole of economic development, and it can independently meet the needs of participants in foreign economic activity.
The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova on Wednesday took a dig at threats by the U.S. State Department to levy restrictions on Georgia over its move to resume flights with Russia. According to Zakharova, there is and can be no rational explanation for why the U.S. considers it possible to comment on agreements between two sovereign countries. Earlier, the U.S. State Department threatened to impose sanctions on any company providing maintenance services to the Russian aircraft at Georgian airports. Russia Russian President Vladimir Putin on May the 10th signed a decree to abolish visas for Georgian citizens as of May 15th. In another decree, he lifted the ban on direct flights by Russian airlines to Georgia that Moscow had maintained since 2019. At the opening ceremony of the plenary session of the Second Eurasian Economic Forum of the Eurasian Economic Union, the Chinese President Xi Jinping said his nation is ready to work with member states to pursue the progress of civilization in a multipolar world.
In the second half of this year, China will hold a Third Belt and Road Forum with international cooperation. We're willing to work with participating countries of the Belt and Road Cooperation and member states of the Eurasian Economic Union to continue to hold high the banner of peace, development, cooperation, and win-win outcomes, share opportunities, overcome difficulties, create a future together, and jointly write a new chapter in the progress of a civilization in a multipolar world.
The Chinese president also called for a deeper synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Eurasian Economic Union as China looks to enhance its cooperation with the organization's member states.
This year marks the 10th anniversary of my proposal of the Belt and Road Initiative. The immutable goal of this initiative is to explore new ways for close and faraway countries to achieve common development and to open up a path of happiness that benefits the whole world. China sincerely hopes that the synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Eurasian Economic Union will be deepened, and all countries will work together with unity and dedication to open up new prospects for Asia-Europe cooperation.
In the United Kingdom, the National Statistics Office reported Wednesday that the gross domestic product, the GDP, stagnated in February compared to the previous month. Darren Morgan, Director of Economic Statistics, pointed out that the economy suffered changes due to the strikes of public sector employees and the teachers. According to data from the institution, in January, the GDP grew 0.4%, while in February it dropped to 0.3%. Many sectors have mobilized in recent months to demand better working conditions, following rising prices and inflation of over 10%. And TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StoreSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Thursday, the United Nations Tribunal for War Crimes committed in Rwanda announced the capture of Rwandan genocide suspect Fulgence Kayishema in South Africa after being on the run since 2001. Kayishema is accused of orchestrating the killing of approximately 2,000 Tutsi people at the Nigaye Catholic Church during the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, according to the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals. Kayishema was indicted by the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in 2001, which charged him with genocide and crimes against humanity for killings and other crimes committed in the Kibuye prefecture. Prosecutors representing the International Committee said the investigation that led to his arrest spanned multiple countries in Africa and beyond and was made possible through the support and cooperation of South African authorities. On Wednesday, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called on nations to immediately ramp up funding to prevent a catastrophe in the Horn of Africa, which is suffering its worst drought in generations. According to the United Nations, more than 43 million people across Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya are in urgent need of life-saving and life-sustaining assistance. In Somalia alone, the number of people displaced now stands at 3.8 million, with 6.7 million people struggling to find food, according according to the UN and Norwegian Refugee Council. Deaths from hunger are now on the rise in Africa because of droughts worsened by climate change and conflict. The devastating drought in the Horn of Africa could not have occurred without the effects of greenhouse gas emissions, the World Weather Attribution Group said in a report released in April. Since late 2020, countries on the Horn of Africa have been suffering the worst drought in 40 years.
At this moment of difficulty and danger for the people of the Horn of Africa, we cannot stand idly by. Let us act together now with greater urgency and for greater support. Crisis atop of crisis is threatening the lives and livelihoods of millions across the Horn of Africa. The longest drought on record, mass displacement after years of conflict and insecurity, skyrocketing food prices, and now chaos and fighting have engulfed Sudan, radiating instability across the entire region.
Authorities of Nigeria and Morocco move forward in the project to build a gas pipeline through 11 countries of the African Atlantic coast. The project, considered a mega pipeline, will pump billions of cubic meters of fuel and has been in charge of Nigeria and Morocco since 2016. The $25 million investment will supply hydrocarbons to West Africa and Europe. The promoters of the project, which is 5 times longer than Nord Stream 1, point out that the pipeline is contributing to peace in Africa and will expand the market for Nigeria's gas. And Syrians predict that their country's recent return to the Arab League will lead to an economic opening towards Syria and an increase of Arab investments in all sectors of the country's industry. A rapprochement that they hope will help overcome the economic crisis that has plagued their lives for more than a decade. Our correspondent Hisham Wanos with the details.
The Damascus Chamber of Industry, in addition to analyzing the problems that Syrian manufacturers are facing and the ways to solve them, emphasized the need to take advantage of the current Arab rapprochement with Syria to attract investments in a way that will have a positive impact on the economy, especially on the national industrial sector, whose losses due to the war and the blockade exceed $150 billion.
In the context of the Arab reopening to Syria and the recent participation of President Bashar al-Assad in the Arab Summit in Jeddah, hope for an early improvement of the situation has grown, and we believe that we will soon see the practical results of these improvements.
The current priority is to increase production and guarantee the necessary raw materials in order to take advantage of the Arab reopening to Syria, especially in terms of optimizing the industrial work environment to increase export to neighboring countries of products that can compete in terms of quality and price.
Syrian industrial production, although reduced by the war and the blockade, has never stopped. The low level of exports, the drain of skilled labor, the oil crisis and the lack of machinery and spare parts are among the difficulties resulting from Western coercive measures, which Syrian businessmen hope to overcome with the help of the Arab brothers.
We will take advantage of the current positive atmosphere of Arab rapprochement in order to organize a series of specialized fairs of national products inside and outside the country to win back the Arab and regional markets with a new and promising aspect of the Syrian industry.
Western coercive measures limit our export capacity, but with the current Arab reopening to our country, we can find mechanisms to overcome the limitations that hinder exports, which will guarantee new income that will help improve the industrial sector, as well as the situation of the national economy.
Another problem we face lies in the lack of manpower and human potential, as many are living as refugees abroad as a result of the war, and therefore we invite Syrian refugees and industrialists to return to their country so that we can rebuild Syria with the hands of their own children.
Syria, in addition to its geographical location that allows it to be an industrial and commercial intermediary, has 4 industrial zones equipped with all the necessary requirements for investments in the field of small, medium, and heavy industry. These factors, added to the promising investment opportunities that the country has, pave the way for the new era of Syrian-Arab economic and industrial integration for the benefit of both the Syrian people and the other brotherly Arab peoples.
Hisham Wannous, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.